Big news doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly and still manages to shake everyone. When Bradley Walsh reacted to the latest update about Anne Hegerty, it wasn't shock that people noticed first. It was care. The kind that doesn't need big gestures or dramatic pauses, just a look, a tone, a moment that said everything without saying too much. Anne Hegerty has always been known for her sharp mind, quick wit, and that unmistakable presence that fills a room even when she's standing perfectly still. She's strong, clever, and endlessly fascinating. So when her ongoing health journey took a more emotional turn, viewers didn't just feel concerned, they felt protective. And Bradley felt it too. Those close to Anne know that behind her fearless intelligence is a warm, quietly humorous soul, someone who laughs at the unexpected, who finds joy in odd little moments, and who never quite does things the ordinary way. That's part of why people adore her. Bradley's reaction reflected that connection. He didn't speak as a presenter, he didn't react as a headline, he responded as a human being who genuinely cares. There was a softness there. Not sadness alone, but respect, a recognition of Anne's courage, her honesty, and her ability to face difficult moments without losing herself. Bradley's words carried warmth, the kind that feels like a reassuring hand on the shoulder. Fans noticed immediately. Social media filled with messages not of panic, but of affection. People shared favorite moments of Anne's humor, her clever comebacks, the way she can turn a simple question into an unforgettable moment. Laughter mixed with concern, creating something unexpectedly beautiful. That balance between emotion and humor is something Anne herself has always mastered, even now, even when things feel heavier. Bradley seemed to understand that perfectly. His reaction wasn't about fear, it was about admiration, about acknowledging strength without turning it into a spectacle, about reminding people that Anne is more than a situation, she's a person who has given so much joy. And somehow, even in this emotional moment, there was a flicker of lightness, a gentle smile, a familiar warmth, a reminder that humor doesn't disappear just because life becomes serious. That's where the romance of this story lives, not in dramatic declarations, but in loyalty, in standing beside someone emotionally when the mood changes, in showing care without turning it into a performance. Fans felt that too. Many said they were surprised by how emotional they felt. Others admitted they laughed and teared up at the same time, unsure how both could exist together, and then realizing that's exactly what makes Anne and Bradley so special. They've always known how to blend sharp wit with genuine feeling. It's not loud romance, it's comfortable romance, the kind built on mutual respect, shared laughter, and understanding glances. As conversations continued, something shifted. Instead of focusing on worry, fans began celebrating Anne's resilience. They spoke about how she's never tried to fit into anyone else's expectations, how she's always been unapologetically herself, brilliant, honest, and refreshingly real. Bradley's reaction helped guide that tone. He didn't let the moment become overwhelming. He didn't let it become cold either. He found that middle ground where concern exists alongside hope and seriousness doesn't erase warmth. There was even a hint of humor in his expression, like he was gently reminding everyone, she's still Anne, don't forget that. And no one did. People remembered her laughter, her intelligence, the way she commands attention without asking for it. They remembered why they admire her, not because of a struggle, but because of her spirit. That's what made this moment powerful. It wasn't about headlines, it was about humanity. Bradley's response became a reflection of how many people feel, wanting to be supportive without being dramatic, caring without assuming the worst, and holding space for emotion without letting it take over completely. That's not easy to do, but somehow it felt natural. As messages of support continued, there was also joy. Fans joked affectionately, shared lighthearted memories, and reminded one another that Anne's strength has always included humor. That even when life tests you, laughter doesn't suddenly disappear. Sometimes it becomes even more important. There's something incredibly romantic about that idea. Not romance as fantasy, but romance as resilience, as choosing to smile, choosing to connect, choosing to keep going with grace and wit intact. Bradley's reaction didn't create fear, it created unity. People felt closer, to Anne, to Bradley, and even to each other. Strangers connected over shared admiration, memories resurfaced, gratitude flowed. And through it all, Anne remained exactly who she's always been in the eyes of her supporters, remarkable. The emotional turn in her journey didn't define her, her character did, and Bradley's response helped everyone remember that. As the noise slowly settled, what remained was something calm and meaningful, a collective pause, a moment of appreciation, a reminder that behind every public update are real people, real friendships, and real emotions. If this story touched you, if it made you smile, reflect, or feel a quiet warmth, you're part of that shared moment, the kind that reminds us why we connect so deeply to people we admire. Because sometimes the most powerful reactions aren't dramatic, they're sincere, they're gentle, and they remind us that even in emotional times, there's room for humor, affection, and hope. Anne's journey continues with strength. Bradley's reaction reflected care, and fans responded with love. That's not just sad news, that's human connection, and it matters more than any headline
As the days
ever
passed,
could.
something quietly reassuring began to happen. The mood shifted again, not away from concern, but toward appreciation. Fans started to realize that moments like these don't only test strength, they reveal it. And Anne Hegerty's strength has always shown itself in the most unexpected ways. Not through loud declarations, not through dramatic gestures, but through wit, honesty, and that unmistakable sparkle in her eyes. People began noticing how Anne still managed to bring humor into conversations, even when the subject turned serious. A clever remark here, a dry observation there. It reminded everyone that her personality hadn't changed, it had simply deepened. Bradley seemed to sense that too. Whenever he spoke about her, there was a calm confidence beneath the concern, as if he knew that Anne wouldn't want to be seen only through the lens of difficulty. She would want people to remember her laugh, her intelligence, and her wonderfully sharp way of seeing the world. And so he did exactly that. He spoke about her mind, her humor, her presence. That choice mattered. Fans responded by sharing the moments that made them fall in love with Anne in the first place. Her perfectly timed pauses, her expressions that said more than words ever could, the way she could turn silence into something powerful or hilarious. Some even joked that if determination could be measured, Anne would have already solved it faster than anyone else. That lightness wasn't denial, it was respect. There's something oddly romantic about people coming together like this, strangers united by admiration, laughter, and shared memories. It felt less like a fan base and more like a community quietly standing beside someone they care about. Bradley's warmth helped keep that balance. He didn't rush to reassure, but he didn't dramatize either. He trusted the audience to understand nuance, that concern and optimism can exist side by side, that seriousness doesn't cancel out joy. And Anne, in her own way, embodied that truth. Even in reflective moments, there was still that familiar spark, the sense that she sees life clearly, accepts its challenges, and still finds room for humor. It's a kind of elegance that can't be taught. Anne admired that deeply. Many said this moment reminded them to slow down, to appreciate people while they're still very much here, to laugh a little louder and worry a little less about things that don't truly matter. In an unexpected way, Anne's journey became a mirror, not one filled with fear, but with perspective. Bradley's reaction didn't frame her story as fragile, it framed it as meaningful. That distinction made all the difference. Instead of stepping back, fans leaned in with kindness. Messages became warmer, more thoughtful, less speculation, more support, less noise, more heart. And through it all, there was still room to smile. Because Anne Hegerty has always taught people something important, that intelligence and humor don't fade when life gets complicated. If anything, they become sharper, more precious. Bradley seemed proud of that, not loudly, not performatively, just quietly, sincerely, as if saying without words, "This is someone worth admiring." And the world agreed. What began as emotional news slowly transformed into a shared moment of reflection about resilience, about friendship, about how connection doesn't disappear when circumstances change. If anything, it grows stronger. And maybe that's the most powerful part of this story. Not sadness, not fear, but the reminder that strength can be gentle, humor can be healing, and care doesn't need to shout to be felt. Anne continues forward with intelligence and grace. Bradley stands with calm respect, and fans respond with warmth, laughter, and loyalty. Sometimes the most meaningful stories aren't about endings or turning points. They're about people, staying exactly who they are, even when life asks more of them. And that, quietly and beautifully, is what makes this moment unforgettable.